So when I started on dialysis, I struggled a lot with self-image. I was a person that prided myself a lot on my physical strength. It took a lot of years for me to cultivate a kind of strength in me that I felt like made me capable, right? So, constantly getting your body battered over and over again by illness after illness, dialysis treatment after dialysis treatment, and I felt like a shell of my former self. I prided myself on being a protector. Like, that's the role that I claimed in my life. I was a protector. I protected my family. I protected the people I care about. I protected the things whatever mattered to me is whatever it was that I was the protector of. That's how I defined myself. That's how I viewed myself. And dialysis took so much of that. It took my physical well-being away. And it's just, the reality is that I wasn't better after I became a dialysis patient. I just wasn't. I was a shadow of who I was. And I would look in the mirror every day and I didn't recognize the person that I saw. And I struggled with that a lot. And it's just, there was no resolution that I came to. Typically, when you hear somebody talk about this, they find well, this is my new normal, and this is how I define myself now, and like, my dialysis machine is named Bob, I named him Bob. And it's like, it's just something in my mind wouldn't allow me to accept this, and I was having all these different conflicting emotions, because on one hand, I felt like it was hopeless and I was never going to get the transplant, but on the other hand, I was like, this can't be just it. Like, this can't be over for me. Like, it can't just be over. I didn't want to live a healthy life, a long, healthy life as a dialysis patient. I didn't want to change my attitude and change my latitude. I didn't want to do any of those things, right? I just didn't. Even though, like, the reality of the situation was, I may have had to. If a kidney didn't come through, or if I just stayed on dialysis so long until eventually I got too sick to continue, I would have just stayed a dialysis patient for the rest of my life. And that would have just been the end of my story. And here's the thing, like, for me, and I'm speaking strictly for myself, like, there's no resolution to any of this stuff. Like, I struggled with this from like 2018 all the way up until about 5 months ago when I got the transplant. I would sit and I didn't know how to define myself. I would stare at this dialysis machine and I would think to myself, you're not strong anymore. That version of you is gone. That fire is all but out. And more than anything in this world, I wanted to have that strength back. I wanted to be capable. I wanted to be a protector again, the way I was before. While I'm going through this, I sought therapy. I sought counseling, because, well, the people closest to me couldn't understand fully, because it's not them that's going through it. And all these medical care professionals that claim that they care didn't give a shit. Like, they just didn't care. Nor did they want to. That wasn't their job. I had a nurse tell me, hey, listen, I'm just a nurse. You need to talk to your family about that. Words a nurse literally told me. Again, I had to go back to compartmentalizing. I had to compartmentalize this trauma into its own space and deal with it occasionally. But throughout my life as a dialysis patient, even before that, situations would arise that would remind me that you're not strong anymore. You're not that guy anymore. Anytime I had to push a car or lift something or stand for long periods of time, this is like pre-transplant, right? It would remind me all the time, you're not that guy anymore. And then it would just bring up more trauma, and I would sit there and I would think about it and just, yeah, I'm not that guy anymore. And then I would feel bad about it. And just, And then things would come up and I'd have to compartmentalize that again and put that here and then focus on, you know, the dialysis and all the treatments and all that stuff and all the pills and taking care of myself with all the dialysis stuff I compartmentalized over here. So that way it just wouldn't, the self-image and self-definition stuff wouldn't just consume me and I wouldn't just spiral into deep depressions. Don't get me wrong. There were plenty of times where I was depressed and there were plenty of times where I was sad. Right, but I couldn't let it consume me or then I wouldn't get anything done. Well, if you're somebody that struggled with the feeling of inadequacy and as a man, right? Now, personally, I don't subscribe to like the social norms of what a man is supposed to be. But I know that a lot of men do. And there's a lot of men on dialysis and they define themselves based on these social normities of a man's got to provide, a man's got to protect, and a man's got to perform. And if dialysis affects those things, then you may feel like less of a man. Those feelings of inadequacy that you may have are very normal. It's not an abnormal thing that you're feeling. It's okay to seek professional help. It doesn't make you any less of a man. Like with dialysis and all this stuff, I realized that I could not deal with this alone. I didn't have the skills to navigate through all of these extreme feelings that I was having emotionally. Right? So if you feel like you're in a position where you cannot handle this, I would highly not advise trying to deal with this by doing drugs, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, or whatever self-destructive thing that, you know, you would think that would help you deal with this. Don't do that. Stay clear of mind. Seek professional help. Talk through your problems. Vocalize it. Put it out there. Make it real. Because when you make it real, then you can deal with it. Or you can at least acknowledge that it's a thing. So that way you know it when you see it. Sometimes there is no answer. Like with me, with this, and how I saw myself, there was no answer. I just dealt with it. I just dealt with it accordingly. You know, and I worked through it with therapy. That's what I did. And that's what helped me not let it control me and consume my life.